In the dim glow of a flickering street lamp, young Tommy clutched his battered lunchbox, the last remnants of his day's earnings, a single, cold sandwich bought with the coins he'd scraped from shining shoes all afternoon. At just 12 years old, he was no stranger to hunger's sharp bite. But tonight, as rain began to patter on the cracked sidewalks of the rundown neighborhood, he spotted an elderly couple huddled under a leaky awning, their faces etched with exhaustion and despair. The old man whispered something to his wife, who shook her head weakly, her eyes hollow from days without a proper meal. Tommy's heart twisted. He knew that look all too well. Without a second thought, he approached them, his small voice cutting through the drizzle. "Here, take this. It's not much, but it's yours." As he handed over his sandwich, the only food he'd have until tomorrow, the couple's tearful gratitude pierced the night. But little did Tommy know, this simple act would unravel a chain of events that would forever alter his fate. If you're touched by stories of unexpected kindness like this, hit that like button right now. Share this video with someone who needs a lift. Drop a comment below sharing your own act of generosity. And don't forget to subscribe to Trillionair in Love for more heartwarming tales that remind us of the power of compassion. Let's dive deeper into Tommy's story. Tommy lived in a cramped one-room apartment on the outskirts of the city, where the walls seemed to close in a little more each day. His mother, Elena, worked double shifts at a dingy laundromat, her hands raw from endless scrubbing, while his father had vanished years ago, leaving behind only faded memories and mounting bills. Tommy's days were a relentless grind, waking before dawn to help his mom with chores, then hustling on the streets with his shoeshine kit, dodging the jeers of older kids who called him rags for his threadbare clothes. School was a luxury he could barely afford. He attended sporadically, squeezing in lessons between jobs, his dreams of becoming a doctor buried under the weight of survival. But Tommy had a spark, an unyielding optimism that shone through his wide, curious eyes. He believed in the stories his grandmother used to tell before she passed. That kindness was like a seed, planted in the darkest soil, destined to bloom when least expected. That fateful evening, as Tommy wandered home from his shoeshine spot near the bustling market square, the rain had turned the streets into slick mirrors, reflecting the city's indifferent lights. His stomach growled fiercely. The sandwich in his lunchbox was a rare treat, earned from an extra generous customer who tossed him a few dollars instead of the usual quarters. He fantasized about biting into it, the simple ham and cheese a feast in his mind. But then he saw them, the elderly couple. The man, Mr. Harold, leaned heavily on a cane, his coat patched in a dozen places, while his wife, Mrs. Leela, clutched a tattered shawl around her frail shoulders. They weren't begging. They sat quietly on a bench, sharing a single bottle of water, their conversation a murmur of worry about how they'd make it through another night without food. Tommy hesitated for a moment, his own hunger clawing at him. "What about me?" a voice whispered in his head. "Mom's counting on me to eat so I can work tomorrow." But as he watched Mrs. Lila's hands tremble, memories flooded back. His own grandmother, frail and forgotten in her final days, how he'd wished someone, anyone, had shown her mercy. Swallowing his doubts, Tommy stepped forward. "Excuse me," he said softly, his voice barely audible over the rain. "You look like you could use this more than I can." He opened his lunchbox and offered the sandwich, wrapped in crinkled foil. Mr. Harold's eyes widened in disbelief. "Son, we can't take your food. You need it yourself." But Tommy insisted, a small smile breaking through. "Please, it's okay. I've got more at home." It was a lie, of course. Home held only a half-empty jar of peanut butter and stale crackers. But the warmth in the couple's grateful nods made the fib worth it. Mrs. Leela pressed his hand, her voice cracking. "Bless you, child. In a world so cold, you're a ray of light." As Tommy walked away, the rain soaking through his thin jacket, a mix of pride and emptiness settled in his chest. That night, he went to bed hungry, his mother too exhausted to notice, but sleep came with a quiet peace he hadn't felt in years. The next morning dawned gray and unforgiving. Tommy rose early, as always, slipping out to his shoeshine corner with an empty stomach and aching limbs. His mind replayed the previous night. Had he been foolish? The older boys in the neighborhood often mocked him for his soft heart, saying it would get him nowhere in a cutthroat world. One of them, a burly teen named Jax, had once stolen his earnings, laughing as Tommy fought back tears. "Life ain't fair, Rags. Better toughen up." Those words echoed now, amplifying his doubts. At school that day, if you could call the sporadic classes he attended school, his teacher noticed his distraction. "Tommy, you seem off. Everything all right at home?" she asked kindly. He nodded, forcing a grin, but inside worries churned. Bills piling up, his mom's cough worsening from the damp apartment, and the constant fear that one bad day could tip them into homelessness. As the afternoon wore on, Tommy returned home, his shoeshine kit slung over his shoulder, pockets lighter than usual from a slow day. He trudged up the creaky stairs, dreaming of scraping together enough for a hot meal. But as he approached the door, a sleek black limousine idled outside their rundown building, a sight as out of place as a diamond in the dirt. Neighbors whispered from windows, curiosity buzzing like flies. Tommy's heart raced. Had something happened to his mom? He burst inside to find Elena standing in the tiny living room, her face a mask of shock, conversing with a sharply dressed man in his 50s, exuding an air of quiet authority. The man turned, his eyes lighting up. "You must be Tommy. I've been looking for you." The stranger introduced himself as Victor Langston, a self-made millionaire who'd built an empire in tech, starting from nothing in the same gritty streets. Tommy's confusion deepened. "How do you know me, sir?" Victor smiled warmly, gesturing for them to sit, though their only furniture was a wobbly table and mismatched chairs. "Last night, you helped an elderly couple. That was my aunt and uncle, Harold and Leela. They've been struggling since Uncle Harold lost his job in the factory shutdown. I was out of town on business, but they called me this morning, raving about a kind boy who gave them his meal. They described you perfectly, right down to the shoeshine kit." Tommy's eyes widened, a flush creeping up his cheeks. It was nothing, really. They needed it more. But Victor shook his head. "Nothing in my world. People step over each other for a dime. You, with so little, gave everything. It reminded me of my own youth. I was once like you, scraping by, until someone believed in me." As Victor spoke, the emotional layers peeled back. He shared how Harold and Leela had raised him after his parents died young, sacrificing their dreams for his. Now, in their twilight years, he'd been trying to track them down after they'd fallen on hard times and moved without a trace. "Your kindness not only fed them, but led me straight to them. And now to you." The challenges Tommy and his family faced seemed insurmountable, but Victor's arrival cracked open a door of hope. First, there was the immediate relief. Victor insisted on stocking their kitchen with groceries, his driver unloading bags of fresh food that filled the room with unfamiliar aromas of abundance. Elena wept openly, hugging Tommy tightly. "My boy, you've saved us." But deeper hurdles loomed. Tommy's education was fragmented. He dreamed of medicine but lacked resources. Victor, seeing the fire in his eyes, offered a scholarship to a prestigious academy, complete with tutoring to catch him up. "You'll have mentors, books, everything you need," Victor promised. Yet Tommy hesitated, fearing it was too good to be true, a scam like the ones he'd heard about. Emotional turmoil peaked that evening as Tommy confided in his mom. "What if I fail? What if I'm not smart enough?" Elena, wiping her tears, held his face. "You've got more heart than anyone I know. That's your strength." Victor, staying for dinner, the first proper meal in months, shared his own failures, bankruptcies, betrayals, the loneliness of success without family. "I built wealth, but lost touch with what matters, you reminded me." The resolution unfolded gradually. Victor relocated Harold and Leela to a comfortable home nearby, ensuring their medical needs were met. For Tommy, the real transformation began with small steps, enrolling in school full-time, where teachers praised his quick mind and empathy. Jax and the bullies, they faded into the background as Tommy's confidence grew, though he extended kindness even to them, offering shoeshine tips that turned rivals into reluctant friends. Months passed, and the changes rippled outward. Elena quit her grueling job for a position at Victor's company, her health improving with proper care. Tommy excelled, his grades soaring, volunteering at a local clinic where he assisted elderly patients, echoing his act for Harold and Leela. One poignant challenge arose when Victor faced a business crisis, a rival company sabotaging his deals. Tommy, overhearing, suggested a simple solution drawn from his street smarts: talk to the people, not just the boardrooms. Kindness builds loyalty. Victor took the advice, turning the tide and crediting Tommy publicly. Their bond deepened, Victor becoming a mentor, father figure, filling the void left by Tommy's absent dad. As the story crested, Tommy stood at his new school's graduation a year later, diploma in hand, surrounded by Elena, Victor, Harold, and Leila. The elderly couple, now vibrant with renewed health, beamed with pride. "You gave us more than a meal," Leila whispered. "You gave us hope." Tommy's speech that day captured the essence. In a world that takes, choose to give. Even when your hands are empty, your heart can overflow. The audience erupted in applause, but for Tommy, the true reward was the family he'd forged, not through blood, but through compassion. Years on, Tommy became a renowned doctor, founding clinics for the underprivileged, his life a testament to that rainy night. Victor, in his will, left a legacy fund in Tommy's name, ensuring kindness's cycle continued. The message rings clear: no act of generosity is too small. It can echo through lives, turning strangers into saviors and poverty into possibility. In the end, it's not what we have, but what we give, that defines our wealth. What did you think of Tommy's journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever experienced a kindness that changed everything? If this story moved you, give it a like, share it far and wide, comment with your own stories, and subscribe to Trillionair in Love for more inspiring narratives that celebrate the human spirit. Your support keeps these tales coming. Thank you.